You know the book, the Bible, you read it and you see. It will surely come to pass. This is how it's gonna be. Those that were weak and humble would come and gain the earth. Them that shuddered at the bottom would rise and rule the world. There's a new world coming, everything gonna be turning over. Everything gonna be turning over. Where you gonna be standing when it comes?
Shalom, family. I brought spinach lasagna, I said, holding up the baking dish as I walked through the gym doors. Nuria, who had been setting the dishes out on a serving table that had been set up against the wall, paused in what she was doing and looked up. I held up my pan, proudly displaying my dish. She looked at Stormy, who was coming out of the kitchen with a bowl of salad. Stormy saw the dish in my hand and stalled a little. You see, y'all, I was blowing their minds with the fact that I was now a cook. They had poked fun at me and talked about me for so long that every time I displayed my skills, it took them aback a bit. Yeah, that's right. I made lasagna, I told them, doing a little in-your-face dance. You did, didn't you? Nuria said, coming to take the dish out of my hand. Yes, I did. Her smile looked strained as she put the dish on the table. After Stormy set the bowl of salad down, she came and hugged me close. Hey, Seth, how you doing? She wore a look of concern on her face. This was my first time hanging out with everybody since Dawid and I got back from the island. I'm good, I'm just ready to get my life back. She nodded. Yeah, I feel you. Well, come on, Susie Homemaker. Help me finish bringing the dishes out the kitchen, Nuria said after giving me a hug. Today, Lion had closed down the gym for everybody except for family. The Ox would do some kind of training while the occultists caught up and chatted about this or that. I love these times we got together because it just really felt good being with Yah-fearing servants. Hey, Sophia, how you feeling, sis? The big Ox said, coming from the back carrying a couple swords to the ring. Good, I told him, hugging him close. Hey, Sophia. Shalom, little sister, Lion said, coming out the gym office. After he hugged me, I ended up repeating this greeting several more times, as other members of our family who hadn't seen me in a long time embraced me. I really loved my family in Yah. None of them asked me where I had been or why I had stayed away so long, and that just made me love them more. Tears came to my eyes as I talked to them. I was so overtaken by their love. Although, if truth be told, of late, I've been crying about a lot. This morning, my dad made me a cup of tea, and I burst into tears at his generosity. And I'm pretty sure he thinks I'm having a nervous breakdown. When all the food was set up and arranged, we prayed, thanking Yah for it, and then we dove in. Lion, come here and look at what I made, I told him, taking his big arm, pulling him to my dish that still had the foil on it. He looked down at me surprised. Sophia, I didn't know you cook, he said. I smiled at him, nodding, so proud of myself. I do. Go ahead, lift the foil, I told him, stepping back to watch the unveiling. You see, I had worked on this lasagna all night. He lifted the foil. Whoa! He snatched his hand back. Isn't it wonderful? Nuria said, smiling at Lion, as she took a knife and cut him a good-sized piece. He leaned down his head, saying something in her ear as he shook his head. She looked back at me, smiling. He says he wants a great big chunk. I clapped my hands together, overjoyed. Lion looked up at me, still shaking his head. No, I didn't. I said I'll just like a little piece so that we can make sure it's enough for everybody. Oh no, help yourself. There's a whole nother pan in the kitchen, I told him. His eyes widened. Nuria pulled his head down and said something in his ear. He lifted his head with a strange smile on his face. I can't wait to taste this. Yeah, I did a little dance to get my plate. Man, I was outdoing myself. Just this morning, I made my daddy a spinach quiche. Anyway, after we ate, we all sat and chit-chatted a bit, letting our food digest. But eventually, the ox folded up the tables and put them away and moved the exercise equipment back to the center of the floor. The coatis began to arrange the food, splitting it up and making to-go plates so that folks could take home the leftovers. And, we cleaned up the kitchen and stuff. The smaller children ran around the gym playing tag or something close to it. There were a few boys around Dawid's age that sat around the ring watching and listening as Lion demonstrated some technique for them. King, Lion's pet, sat sprawled on his side, licking his huge paw in the corner of the ring because he was never too far from his master. Several of the ox lifted weights. A few sparred with each other. The big ox held the heavy bag over in the corner for Shlomo as he punched it. I inhaled. You know what? It felt good to be home. And I thought at that moment, nothing can happen to ruin such shalom. Man, was I wrong. So very, very wrong. About 30 minutes later, I and a few of the other coatis stood around the kitchen door, and I had made a new cream out of cocoa butter. And I had a container for each of the coatis, and I was explaining to them the benefits of it. It was then that Dawid, who had been standing by his mother speaking to her, froze. Lion, who was in the center of the ring, who was watching the twins do some kind of hand-to-hand combat, also froze, looking at his son. Then the lights went out in the gym. A few seconds later, the backup lights came on. Ma, take the ladies and the kids into the kitchen quickly, Dawid said before he sprinted to the wall where Lion's sword was mounted and tossed it to him. Lion caught it with one hand. Prepare for battle was all Dawid said before the gym erupted in action. You see, the ox had all come to depend on Dawid's ears. If he said it was going down, then it was going down. Nobody here started to ask questions. Right then, several dark shadows streaked up the window. I frowned. Where had I seen that kind of movement before? King, who was standing next to Lion, let out a loud roar. Quickly, we gathered up the children and we ran into the kitchen. No sooner had we shut the kitchen door than there was a loud bang and the metal gym door came flying into the gym. Lion, who still stood in the center of the ring, ducked just in time as it whizzed past his head, embedding itself in the back wall. He looked back at it, amazed, before he turned to see who or what did such damage. The other occultists and I stood in the kitchen window and looked out at the gym. I cried out when I saw who stood at the entrance of the door. Gideon. His name whooshed out of me as my body just stiffened in shock. My eyes greedily took him in. He wore a pair of black cargo pants with a black tank top. His long hair was braided in cornrows that fell down to the center of his back. Underneath his muscled arms, those two golden pistols contrast starkly with his dark skin and dark clothes. Slowly, he stepped into the gym. To his right was Monroe, Wolf at his left. With wide eyes, I watched as his men spilled into the gym like smoke. They came from all over, from the back, from upstairs, and get this, none of them took the stairs. Like spiders, they jumped from the rails to the window to the ledges to the floor, displaying skills that the ox here did not have. Lion, however, never took his eyes from Gideon. It was as if he could sense that he was his only threat. Gideon never looked away from Lion. Both of them wore fierce frowns as they took in the other, their eyes not missing a thing about each other. King let out another loud roar, so loud it filled the gym and made the windows rattle. Lion stood there holding his sword, then he folded his arms. I knew that stance. He was getting ready to kill Gideon. "No," I cried, and I turned to run out of the kitchen door. "Koti, stop!" Nuria said, grabbing me, her and Stormy holding me where I stood. Tears came to my eyes, and time seemed to slow down as I helplessly watched all this unfold. You see, this second was the calm before the storm. Lion smiled, real evil like at Gideon, whose frown only intensified. You see, I saw that look he wore before too. It was the look he wore right before he broke his brother's back. "Let's go, sweet meat. I ain't got all night," Lion spat. And then all hell broke loose. Y'all, Gideon reached under his arms, pulling out those 2 golden pistols. Pointing them at Lion, he proceeded to empty the clips as he ran towards him. Lion moved like nothing I had ever seen before as he used the sword to block each bullet that came his way. When Gideon had emptied the clip, he tossed the pistols, continuing his charge. Lion threw his sword at Gideon then, sending it sailing at him like a missile. Gideon went back into a backflip right when that sword was only inches from his face. It embedded in the wall behind him. Lion leaped up in the air, over the ropes, and out the ring, running towards Gideon. I ask you this. Have you ever seen 2 bulls charge at each other? That is what it was like watching them. It seemed like everybody held their breaths, eyes wide, and each waited to see what would happen when these 2 collided. Sonic boom. At least that's what it felt like. I think the building shook. Both of their muscles strained as they grappled with the other in grips that would destroy the average man. Lion punched Gideon, sending him flying back through the wall. Monroe charged at Lion then, but before he could connect, Dawid kicked him out of the air. When Monroe landed, he didn't stay down for nothing but a split second before he was back on his feet. Then suddenly he went back into a backflip and kicked Dawid, sending him crashing into the table. Lion looked to where his son had landed, but before he could take a step toward Monroe, Gideon tackled him, hitting him like a Mack truck, taking him off his feet. He hit Lion so hard that the 2 of them flew back into the ring. Gideon, who was now on top, began to punch Lion. We all flinched as he delivered blows that would have killed anybody else. Dawid leaped over the ropes and into the ring. He came out of nowhere. But before he could deliver a blow to Gideon, Monroe tackled him from the back, much like his dad had just tackled Lion, sending both of the youth flying to the other side of the ring. Lion brought his knee up, kicking Gideon. The impact sent him flying off of him. Quickly, Lion was on his feet. And then, when I tell y'all it was a rumble in the jungle, please believe me. Dawid and Monroe fought in the ring right next to their fathers, who were trying to tear each other's heads off. I had never seen anything like this. Right then I realized that this spectacle had not just gotten my attention, but both Gideon and Lion's men stood, their bodies prepared for battle, but their limbs seemed frozen like me. They were in shock, amazed at what they were seeing. You see, I'm sure none of them had ever seen anybody give their leaders competition. None of them had probably ever seen anyone survive a punch from their leader, let alone an array of punches, kicks, knees, elbows. And I was quite sure that Dawid and Monroe was another surprise, because like their fearless fathers, their sons were also undefeated. Even King and Wolf stood together watching this phenomenon. take place in this ring. Suddenly, there was a loud noise that sounded like thunder. I put my hands to my ears trying to protect my eardrums. What looked like lightning came from the roof and crashed down into the center of the ring, sending all 4 combatants flying out to crash against the wall. My mouth dropped open when that lightning turned into a very bright, like light being. A warrior, so big and strong, bigger than even Gideon and Lion. He was so bright to look at, it hurt my eyes. And then the light began to dim as he rotated his shoulders and his necks like they were stiff or something. When the light dimmed fully, his image changed from that of a great warrior to an old homeless man with no shoes. He stood in the center of the ring. Lion, Gideon, Monroe, and Dawid had been knocked out cold. The lightning had hit them with such force. Nuria squeezed my hand as she looked out, frozen in fear. We all were. Nobody could move as they stared at this being. He looked around at Gideon and Lion's men with angry eyes, and when he spoke, his voice was like a trumpet.
Rise, Jacob!
His voice boomed through the gym.
Rise, Jacob!
My hand flew to my mouth as Lion, Gideon, Monroe, and Dawid's unconscious bodies rose up high into the air.
Rise, Jacob!
Their limbs hung limp from their bodies. A light started out at their feet and then began to circle around their legs.
For thus says Yah.
The being began to speak like a horn from the center of the ring.
I shall bend Yehuda for me. I shall fill the bow with Ephraim. I shall stir up your sons, O Sion, against your sons, O Greece. I shall make you like the sword of a mighty man, and Yah shall appear for them, and his arrow go forth like lightning, and the master Yah sound with the shofar, and he shall go with the whirlwinds from the south. Yah of hosts shall shield them, and they shall devour and trample on sling stones.
The light continued up their bodies, circling around their waists.
They shall drink and roar as if with wine, and they shall be filled like basins, like the corners of the slaughter place. And Yah, their power shall save them in that day, as the flock of his people, for the stones of a diadem, sparkling over his land.
The light ran along their muscles in their arms.
For thus says Yah.
The being voice continued to boom.
But you, Yisrael, are my servants, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the descendants of Abraham, who loved me, whom I have strengthened from the ends of the earth, and called from its farthest parts, and said to you, you are my servant. I have chosen you, and I have not rejected you. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not look around, for I am your power. I shall fortify you. I shall also help you. I shall also uplift you with my right hand of righteousness.
Right then, their bodies shook and then was strung tight as light burst out of their eyes, out of their mouths, their ears, the tips of their fingers, their feet. My legs gave out then, and I sunk down to the floor as the breath seemed to just leave my body and then just slam back into it. Nuria went to the floor with me. She too looked up at her husband and her son in complete shock.
Behold!
The being's voice boomed.
the prototype.
He looked around at each of us before becoming light again. And then as quick as he came, he left as what looked like lightning back through the roof. Gideon, Lion, Dawid, and Monroe's bodies crashed back to the ground. For a few seconds, you could hear a pin drop as everybody stared down at them. Even King and Wolf seemed to be frozen in shock. On legs that felt foreign, I walked out of the kitchen. Nuria still clutched my hand. There were tears in my eyes. What had we just witnessed? We all looked up as a shadow fell over the door. The preacher. He stood looking down at the 4 bodies on the ground before he looked up at each of the warriors. Pick up your leaders and their sons. Their bodies will need rest for a while.